There is a silent epidemic, more dangerous than failure, more paralyzing than fear, more devastating than defeat. It is not found in loss, but in the refusal to begin. Most people never lose because most people never play. Most people never fall because they never climb. Most people never fail because they never start. They sit on the sidelines of their own life, waiting for the perfect moment, waiting for certainty, waiting for clarity, waiting for someone to tap them on the shoulder and say, now is the time. But life does not hand out invitations. It hands out opportunities dressed in uncertainty, wrapped in discomfort, veiled in challenge. And while the masses wait for green lights, the few, the rare few, step into the traffic. They cross anyway. They build as they go. They begin before they're ready, because they understand something that changes everything. You don't get confidence and then act. You act, and confidence shows up like a soldier answering the call. Think of Edison. He didn't wait for permission to invent the light bulb. He declared it. He failed 1,000 times, and every failure was a step forward, not a step back. He didn't sit and wait for inspiration to fall from the sky. He started, and in the starting, the path revealed itself. So here's the truth. Your dream doesn't need more time. It needs your decision. It needs your ignition. It is not your lack of talent or intelligence or resources that's holding you back. It's the chains of hesitation. It's the prison of what if. It's the slow suffocation of someday. Understand this. The most dangerous place to live is in your own potential, untouched, unexplored, unlived. A life left on pause is no life at all. And most people, they've learned to function in that pause. They decorate it, they justify it, they call it being realistic. But realism is just fear dressed in logic. Let that truth hit you hard, because the greatest ideas, the most profound visions, the world-changing businesses and soul-shaking creations, they die in notebooks. They die in dreams. They die in people too afraid to take the first step. But if you want to win, if you want to break orbit, if you want to live a life that echoes after you're gone, you've got to do what most never will. You've got to begin. Messy, imperfect, uncertain, but moving. And that begins with one thing: mindset. Not the soft, inspirational kind you see stitched on throw pillows. I'm talking about the kind of mindset that hardens steel, the kind that forged empires, that led Lincoln through war, that pushed Carnegie from poverty to power, the kind that understands reality, bends to the determined. Your mindset is not your mood. It is your operating system. If it's corrupted by doubt, if it's infected with indecision, it does not matter how hard you work, the output will always be sabotage. You must reprogram your mind to believe the unseen, to trust the invisible, to walk not by sight, but by vision. Because here's the paradox. You must believe in something before there is evidence to support it. That's not delusion, that's creation. Every skyscraper was first an invisible thought. Every revolution started as a whisper in the mind of one person who refused to wait. You are either reinforcing your fears or reinforcing your future. Every single day, by thought, by word, by action, you are casting a vote for the life you want or the one you're settling for. So ask yourself, what are you voting for today? A life of almosts and could-haves, or one of fire, movement, risk, and rise? Because your belief system is a thermostat. It sets the temperature of your entire life. If you set it low, you will sabotage any moment of success. If you raise it, the world has no choice but to match your new standard. This is not ego. This is alignment with purpose. You are not here to blend into the crowd. You are here to move the crowd. But belief alone is not enough. Clarity is the companion of belief, because a man with no target hits nothing. And that is how most people live, running fast in every direction, exhausted, burnt out and empty because they never defined what they were chasing. So what are you chasing? What burns in your blood? What would keep you awake at night if the noise of the world fell silent for a moment? If you cannot answer that, you are not alive. You are only existing. Purpose is not found. It is forged. It is dug from the soil of decision, mined from the rock of discipline. It is not delivered, it is claimed. Carve it, name it, own it, because clarity turns chaos into a compass. It turns maybe into must. It silences distractions, because when you know what matters, what doesn't becomes obvious. Clarity is the blade that cuts through overwhelm, and once you have it, you become dangerous to excuses, to comfort, to mediocrity. But clarity must be married to vision, not small dreams that fit inside a to-do list. I'm talking about a vision that keeps you trembling at the edge of your limits. A vision that's so big it makes your current life uncomfortable. A vision that demands expansion, not maintenance. Walt Disney saw a city before it had blueprints. Ford saw a car in every driveway before the roads were built. They were called fools until they were called legends. And what separated them from the countless dreamers who faded into nothingness? They began. Even in ridicule, even in doubt, even in the dark, the vision pulled them, and it must pull you, because a vision that doesn't pull you won't carry you when things go black, and they will go black. But vision gives pain context. Vision turns struggle into significance. It turns obstacles into initiation. You weren't meant to coast. You were meant to rise, but you cannot rise if you do not ignite. And ignition comes not from knowing everything. It comes from deciding despite knowing almost nothing. Ignition is divine. It is the spark that separates those who only dream from those who do. It is the point of no return. The moment your soul says, I'm all in, even if your mind is still trembling. Because waiting to be ready is a myth. It's a lie we tell ourselves to avoid risk. But risk is not the enemy. Comfort is. Comfort is the slow assassin of greatness. It doesn't kill you quickly. It numbs you, softens your edge, and convinces you that later is a viable strategy. But later is a graveyard, a field of broken tomorrows that never came. So if you want to begin, truly begin, you must slay comfort. You must choose discipline, not once, every day. Discipline is not punishment. It is self-respect in motion. It is the bridge between intention and result. It is what separates the wishful from the powerful. Because here's the unspoken law. The universe does not reward intentions. It rewards execution. It rewards the one who shows up, who bleeds for the craft, who stays when motivation dies, and motivation will die. It's a spark. Discipline is the fuel. It's the grind behind the glory, the hours no one sees, the nights you go without sleep, the mornings you rise before the sun. Not because you want to, because you promised yourself you would. Carnegie, Rockefeller, Oprah, Jobs, they weren't built on talent alone. They were built on fire and follow-through, on hunger sharpened by relentless action. Because action is the proof of belief. You can say all the affirmations you want. You can visualize your empire. But if your feet don't move, your future won't either. Movement is magnetic. The world bends for those in motion. Opportunities don't knock. They respond to energy, to momentum, to boldness. And the bold don't wait for confidence. They walk into rooms they feel unqualified for. They speak before their voice is ready. They act before their fear subsides. Because they know courage is not the absence of fear. It is the decision that something else matters more. So what matters more to you? Your legacy or your comfort? You cannot have both. And when you choose the path of creation, of becoming, you will meet resistance, internally and externally. Your own mind will rebel. It will whisper doubts. It will scream for ease. It will demand retreat. But you must become unavailable to that voice. You must choose gratitude for the resistance, because it is proof you're growing. Muscles don't grow without tension. Diamonds aren't formed in soft hands. And your future self cannot emerge without friction. Gratitude isn't just for blessings, it's for battles. It's the posture of a warrior who understands. Every obstacle is a teacher. Every setback is a forge. Every delay is divine redirection. You either curse the challenge or use it. And the greats, they use it. They alchemize pain into power. They transmute rejection into fuel. They bend adversity into art. Because adaptability is the trait of the timeless. The world will shift. Markets will collapse. People will betray. Plans will crumble. But the adaptable rise again. Like water, they flow around the rock. Like fire, they consume what blocks them. Like storms, they change the landscape. You are not here to be rigid. You are here to evolve. To be like Lincoln, resilient in the face of endless loss. To be like Disney, undaunted by bankruptcy. To be like Mandela, unbroken after 27 years in chains. Resilience is not a trait you're born with. It's a choice made daily. It's forged in the fire of almost gave up. It's strengthened by the echoes of not good enough. But let me tell you something. You must never forget. You are good enough, not because of what you've done, but because of what you've decided to become. And you're becoming more than they told you was possible. You're shedding the skin of limitation. You're stepping out of the grave of stagnation. You're claiming a life that is not given freely, but seized. And in that life there is no room for entitlement. There is only ownership, radical, full-contact ownership of your choices, your energy, your effort, your results. No one is coming to save you. No mentor, no book, no system. They are all tools, but you are the force. Your dream is not waiting on luck. It's waiting on leadership. Your leadership, lead your mind, lead your emotions, lead your moments, because the truth is brutal and beautiful. You are both the problem and the solution, and that should electrify you, because if you're the problem, you have the power to change it. You're not cursed. You're charged with potential, with responsibility, with dominion. You don't need another course. You don't need more credentials. You need conviction. Conviction that your life matters. Conviction that your voice has weight. Conviction that your past does not define your potential. This world does not need more people playing small. It needs more people playing real. People who start before they're ready. People who stay before they see results. People who move even when no one's watching. Because that's the only way you earn the right to be seen. You don't get the crown without the climb. You don't get the spotlight without the shadows. You don't get to win until you start. Starting is not a gesture. It's a declaration. It is standing before the mountain of your dreams and saying, I will climb even if I crawl. It's the moment you plant a flag in the soil of your own soul and proclaim, this life, this one shot, I will not waste it, because time is not waiting. It is a ruthless current, dragging you either toward your destiny or away from it. And indecision, that's how you drown. Not because you can't swim, but because you refuse to choose a direction. The man who starts may still fall, but the man who delays, he's already gone. And we've been trained to hesitate, taught to ask for validation, to seek applause before performance, to wait for approval before taking action. But greatness doesn't knock politely. It kicks the door open. It doesn't need applause. It builds without it. It's not asking, am I worthy? It's declaring, I'm coming regardless. Understand this. Every day you delay, the dream decays, the vision dims, the fire cools, not because you lost it, but because you starved it. And nothing lives without nourishment. So nourish your dream. Feed it with action. Fuel it with focus. Guard it with discipline, because no one else will protect it like you can. And as you begin, you must armor your mind, because the battlefield is not out there. It is in here. The doubts, the echoes of failure, the lies you've believed for far too long. You think it's your circumstances, but it's your agreements with limitation. Break them. Burn the contract you signed with mediocrity. Write a new one that says, I am not average. I will not bow to fear. I will not wait for perfect. I will not ask permission to live fully, because here's what they never told you. You're allowed to outgrow the version of you they still expect. You're allowed to evolve past their comfort zones. You're allowed to rise, even if it makes them uncomfortable, even if they doubt you, even if they leave you. Growth will cost you something. Friendships, familiarity, maybe even family. But what it gives you in return is freedom. And that trade is worth everything. The moment you start, truly start, you will lose people, not because you've changed, but because they haven't. You'll outpace their doubt. You'll outgrow their narratives, and they'll try to pull you back, not out of hatred, but out of fear. Fear of what your rise says about their stagnation. Fear that your light will expose their shadows. And still, you must rise, because the mission is greater than the comfort of fitting in. You weren't built to blend. You were built to blaze. And as you blaze, the world will resist. Systems are built to keep you in place. Society rewards safety, not sovereignty. But you are here to disrupt. You are here to shake the cage, to rattle the world with your becoming. And becoming is violent. It tears away who you thought you were. It destroys identities, crushes old dreams, and dismantles the scaffolding of should. It is not polite. It is not clean. It is not quiet. It is messy rebirth. It is breaking and rebuilding. It is death of the small self to awaken the real one. And in that chaos there will be silence. Moments when you hear nothing. No applause. No validation. No, you're doing great. That is not a sign to stop. That is a sign to keep going. Because the seed does not hear praise when it is buried. But it grows anyway. You must become deaf to doubt, blind to comparison, immune to delay. This is your life. Not their projection. Not their plan. Not their permission slip. And you don't need anyone to see the vision. You need to see it with such clarity that it burns through every excuse, every delay, every justification you've used to avoid becoming who you were born to be. You are not a statistic. You are not a product of circumstance. You are not a prisoner of your past. You are a force, and that force must be directed, with focus sharper than a blade, with purpose louder than the noise. But if you start and do not stay, you will fall into a new trap, the trap of the starter who never finishes, and that is a silent death. To be gifted the courage to begin, and then abandon the climb halfway, to taste purpose, and then choose the comfort of mediocrity again. Don't you dare turn back. Burn the boats. Kill the plan B. Detach from outcomes and marry the process. Because this isn't about speed. It's about consistency. The man who swings the axe every day will bring down the mightiest tree. Not through power, through persistence. Persistence is your weapon. It's what kept Churchill fighting when the sky was falling. It's what pushed Harriet Tubman through the night, again and again. It's what made Muhammad Ali say, "I hated every minute of training, but I said don't quit. Suffer now and live the rest of your life as a champion." Champions aren't made in the light. They are built in the lonely hours, the uncelebrated days, the quiet grind. So let the world sleep. Let the doubters talk. Let the critics mock. You're not here to be understood. You're here to be unforgettable. But only if you start, and only if you keep going. And when you keep going day after day, step after step, you will begin to see something rise inside of you. Not just confidence, not just skill, but power, real power. The kind that doesn't need to speak, the kind that walks into a room and shifts the air, the kind that doesn't beg for respect because it commands it silently, steadily, without ever asking. But that power is earned. Not in the highlight reels, in the dirt, in the repetition, in the unglamorous moments where no one claps and no one sees. Power is forged in the moments you say yes to the work, when everything in you is screaming no. It's built when you do the thing you said you would, after the feeling you set it in has long passed. Discipline isn't just doing hard things. It's doing the right things even when they feel wrong, even when your emotions rebel, even when your comfort cries, because your comfort will try to seduce you back to average. It will disguise itself as self-care, as taking it easy, as being realistic. But comfort is clever. It doesn't show up as the enemy. It shows up as a friend with soft hands and good excuses. And excuses are the currency of failure. They buy you another day of the same, another week of regret, another year in the waiting room of your own life. You can have excuses or evolution, never both. So you have to decide. Do you want to be understood, or do you want to be undeniable? Because the world may not understand your pace, your grind, your obsession, but one day they will understand your results. You'll walk into the life you used to dream of, and they'll say it was luck. Let them misunderstand. Let them underestimate. Let them sleep on your name. Because while they sleep, you build. While they doubt, you dig. While they delay, you decide. And with every step, you'll gather more than just wins. You'll gather wisdom. Not the kind found in books, but the kind earned through fire. The wisdom of failure, the wisdom of falling and rising, the sacred, brutal, glorious wisdom of trying again. And here's what that wisdom whispers. It was never about what you get. It's about who you become. Your results will fade. Your trophies will collect dust. But the man or woman you forged in the process, that's the true reward. That's the version of you that cannot be taken, stolen, or denied. And in that evolution, you'll stop needing motivation. You'll start breathing purpose. You'll stop chasing inspiration and start carrying identity. Because identity is the engine, and identity is built through action. Not once, repeatedly. You don't wake up one day and have belief. You earn belief through evidence. You show yourself who you are by what you do and what you refuse to stop doing. Each day you show up as a brick, laid in the cathedral of your character. And one day you'll look up and see the walls of a life you built, not begged for, not borrowed, not inherited. Built brick by brick, battle by battle, choice by brutal, beautiful choice. And when doubt returns, and it will, you won't negotiate. Because when your identity shifts from I want to become to I am becoming, there is no more debate. You don't need to convince yourself anymore. You've already proven it with your blood, sweat, and integrity. You've already shown that the old story has no place in the new world you're creating. And when the new world begins to unfold, when your inner standard rises so high that average starts to feel like pain, you'll know you've crossed over. You've become the kind of person who can't go back. Not because someone told you not to, but because your spirit won't allow it. Because going back would be betrayal. Of the hours, of the sacrifices, of the moments when you chose growth over comfort, purpose over pleasure, vision over validation. You're no longer playing the game for applause. You're playing to transform. And transformation is not cute. It's not marketable. It's not Instagram worthy. It's sacred warfare. The fight for your mind. The claiming of your day. The bending of time to your terms. And when you begin to win those battles, you realize something deeper. This was never just about you. Because the moment you start, really start, you give permission to someone else. Someone watching. Someone doubting. Someone frozen in fear. And when they see you rise, they start to believe that maybe they can too. You don't just break generational chains, you shatter them with your discipline, with your courage, with your example. You don't need 1 million followers. You need one decision fully made, fully owned, because the most powerful force in the world is a human being who has decided to rise, decided to begin, decided to never stop. And once you decide truly, the universe will move, doors will appear, people will arrive, energy will shift, not because the world changed, but because you did. That's how it works. You don't wait for things to get better. You get better. You raise your vibration, you raise your standard. You raise the bar on what you will accept from life, and what life will accept from you. You become the initiator, the creator, the one who starts before it makes sense, before it's safe, before it's certain. Because most people never win, not because they couldn't, but because they never started. And you're already on the path. Keep going. Keep going. Because the moment you stop is the moment you start to decay. And the world will tempt you again and again to pause, to rest, to take just a moment to wait for a better season. But understand that better season is a myth. There is no perfect time. There is no ideal window. There is only now and the sharp knife of your decision. Do not confuse rest with retreat. Do not confuse patience with paralysis. The only momentum that matters is forward, even if it's slow, even if it's painful, even if it's imperfect. Because forward motion, no matter how small, is a rejection of death. It's a declaration that you are alive, that you are becoming. But becoming is not for the faint. It will demand your old self as payment. Yes, everything you want has a price, and that price is you. The you that doubts, the you that hesitates, the you that fears their own power. You must lay it down. You must bury the small self so the sovereign self can rise. This is the law of nature. The phoenix does not upgrade, it burns. The seed does not improve, it breaks. You must break your patterns, break your distractions, break the identity you've outgrown. Not because it was wrong, but because it is too small for who you're meant to become. You are not the job you lost. You are not the betrayal you suffered. You are not the failure that mocked you. You are the response. You are the comeback. You are the rebuilder of ruins. And inside of you is the blueprint, not just for survival, but for domination. Not just for progress, but for legacy. But legacy is not written in ideas. It's written in execution, in the grind, in the showing up when everything in you wants to disappear. Execution turns hope into evidence. Execution turns dreams into brick and steel. Execution is the highest form of belief. Don't tell me what you want. Show me what you're building. Don't talk about your vision. Walk in alignment with it. If your habits don't match your goals are lies. They're fantasies. They're illusions dressed up as dreams. And the world is full of illusionists. Men and women who look like they're becoming but are only rehearsing. Practicing motivation. Performing ambition. Chasing the feeling of success instead of doing the work that earns it. You want real change. Then you need to kill the performer inside of you. Stop curating. Stop auditioning for a life that you already have permission to build. Start living it. Messy, raw, real. Without applause. Without a spotlight. Without filters. Because the world doesn't need more polish. It needs proof. Proof that a person can rise from the ashes of fear. Proof that discipline still works. That integrity still matters. That purpose still trumps popularity. Proof that success, true success, is not a lottery. It's a consequence of focus, of standards, of relentless forward pressure. And the more you move forward, the more the world will try to pull you back. The gravity of the mediocre is real. They will call your urgency obsession. They will call your commitment selfish. They will call your excellence unrealistic. Let them, because their judgment is just noise, and you are becoming a signal, a broadcast to everyone still stuck in the shadows, that freedom is possible, that power is available, that greatness can be chosen, not once, every day, in every decision, in every habit, in every second you say yes to the standard you've raised. This is the truth few want to admit. You are always choosing, even in your silence, even in your delay, even in your excuses. You are always choosing who you become, and most people never win. Not because they lacked talent, not because they lacked opportunity, but because they chose comfort over courage, again and again and again. Comfort is the poison that feels like peace. It soothes you into sleep. It whispers, "You're doing fine," while your destiny rots in the attic. It seduces you into tomorrow, while today dies in your hands. But not you, not anymore, because you've felt the hunger, you've heard the voice, you've seen the cost of waiting, and now you move, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary, because every second you hesitate, your future bleeds. You move because the calling is louder than your excuses, because the fire is hotter than your fears, because the regret of not starting has become unbearable. You move because you know the truth. There is no rescue coming, no savior, no permission slip, no magical moment where it all makes sense. There is only the grit of your decision, the violence of your consistency, the ruthlessness of your focus. You don't need to be the smartest. You don't need to be the fastest. You don't need to be the most gifted. You just need to begin and refuse to quit. You need to become so committed that it becomes uncomfortable for anyone to even suggest quitting in your presence. Because you have burned the old map, you have closed the exit doors, and you have chosen the fire. Because inside the fire is where the real you waits. Inside the fire is where the real you waits. Not the version that plays it safe, not the version that hesitates, second guesses, and overthinks, but the version that decides and acts. The version that doesn't negotiate with weakness. That doesn't water down their dreams to fit the fears of others. That doesn't dim their fire just to make others comfortable in their mediocrity. Because when you finally step into that fire and refuse to run, you realize it doesn't destroy you. It refines you. It burns away the lies. It melts the masks. It purifies your purpose. You don't come out weaker. You come out clearer. Clearer about who you are. clearer about what you want, clearer about what you're willing to suffer for. Because that's the question greatness always demands: what are you willing to suffer for? Not what you're excited about, not what looks good on a vision board, but what you'll bleed for in the dark. You want to be free? Then you need to suffer for your discipline, suffer for your standards, suffer for the work, not for the regret of avoiding it. Most people are already suffering, but they suffer from avoidance, from inaction, from waking up year after year in a life they never built, only inherited. They suffer from the ache of knowing they're capable of more and doing nothing about it. But not you, because you understand something sacred. That pain with a purpose is power. That suffering for your greatness is a form of worship, a way of showing the world and yourself that you are worthy of the destiny placed within you. And when you step into that pain willingly, with open eyes and open hands, you transform it. You alchemize it into clarity, into momentum, into unbreakable will. This is what separates the few who start and keep going from the many who just wish. The few learn to love the struggle, not because they're masochists, but because they see what the struggle is shaping. They fall in love with the process, with the silence, with the early mornings and late nights and long lonely hours when it's just you and the work. That's where character is carved. That's where kings and queens are crowned in obscurity. So if no one sees you grinding right now, good. That's where the real magic lives. That's where identity is forged. Because the people who win don't just want the result. They become the kind of person who gets that result. They stop asking, how do I get success? And start asking, who do I need to become to attract it? And when you ask that question honestly, the answers are simple. You must become consistent when others are casual. You must become obsessed when others are indifferent. You must become unshakable when others are uncertain. Not just once, every day. And that is where most people break. Not at the start, but in the middle, in the grind, in the space where the novelty wears off and all that's left is repetition. That's the test. Can you love the repetition? Can you show up again when the progress is slow, when the results are invisible, when the reward feels miles away? Because that's what separates the doers from the dreamers. Doers don't rely on adrenaline. They build off standards. Doers don't chase motivation. They create momentum. Doers don't need an audience. They need a reason. And that reason must be deeper than money, deeper than applause, deeper than proving people wrong. Your reason must be true, unshakable, rooted in the core of who you are. And when it is, you become unstoppable. Not because it's easy, but because it's inevitable. And that inevitability, it's a frequency. People feel it when you walk in. They see it in your eyes. They hear it in your voice. They sense it in your presence. Not because you said anything, but because you have become something. And people will ask what changed. You'll smile, and you'll know. It wasn't a mentor. It wasn't a strategy. It wasn't a hack. It was the decision to start, the refusal to stop, the choice to become the kind of person who finishes what they begin. Because when you do that, when you walk through the fire, when you keep moving forward through the fog and fear and fatigue, you become rare. You become part of the 1% of the 1% who don't just talk about potential, they manifest it. And here's the paradox. Once you start becoming that person, you realize it was never about winning. It was about awakening. Because in the beginning you think the prize is the money, the car, the recognition. But as you grow, you realize the real prize is your power. The real prize is looking in the mirror and respecting who looks back. The real prize is knowing that you didn't fold, that you didn't flinch, that you rose, that you walked into a battlefield with nothing but heart and purpose, and you won the war with yourself. That is the victory. And it all began the moment you stopped waiting and started moving. So if there is one truth you carry into every day from this moment forward, let it be this: you cannot lose if you do not stop, because the world only beats those who retreat. And as long as you keep rising, as long as you keep building, as long as you keep starting again and again and again, you are already winning. You are already winning because you've chosen the rarest path of all, the path of full ownership. No one is coming to rescue you. No handouts, no shortcuts, no excuses, only a mirror and the raw truth staring back at you, that you are the author now, and the page is blank. Every decision, every thought you allow or reject, every standard you raise or lower, you're either writing the story of your rise or rehearsing the script of your regret. And regret is a vicious thing, not because of what it takes, but because of what it leaves behind. It leaves you with the ghost of what could have been. It whispers through the halls of your mind. You almost did it. You almost became it. But almost is the anthem of the unfulfilled. Almost is the battlefield where potential goes to die. You're not here to almost win. You're not here to almost start. You're here to ignite, to make a choice so irreversible, so bold, that there is no version of you that can go back to being average. That's the line in the sand. And once you cross it, truly cross it, you stop negotiating with yourself. You stop arguing with the alarm clock. You stop questioning whether or not you're feeling it. You stop consulting the opinions of people who've never built anything but excuses. You start, and that start becomes your new identity. And that identity becomes your rhythm. And that rhythm becomes your momentum. And that momentum becomes your dominance. Because in a world where most people drift, you drive. In a world addicted to distraction, you are anchored. You know your mission. You've counted the cost, and you've paid it gladly. Because that cost is a fraction of what it would cost to live a life beneath your potential. And yes, there are days where it's hard. Days where the weight feels unbearable. Days where the voices in your head sound like sirens pulling you back into comfort. But on those days, you remember discomfort is the compass. It's not the enemy. It's the guide. It tells you exactly where the growth is, exactly where you've hit the wall, and where you must break through. That's the threshold where most people retreat, where they tell themselves a story about why it wasn't the right time, why they weren't ready, why they'll try again later. But later is where dreams go to die, because you and I both know you'll never feel ready. Greatness doesn't wait for readiness. It requires responsibility, and responsibility means this. You don't wait for a path, you become the path. You don't wait for motivation, you become your own source. You don't wait for a guarantee, you become the proof. This is what real power looks like. Not noise, not likes, not validation from the outside, but inner certainty, inner command, the quiet force of a person who has made up their mind. Because once the mind is made up, truly made up, everything else becomes noise. Fear, noise. Doubt, noise. Rejection, temporary. Failure, a lesson. Everything becomes fuel when your vision is clear enough. But clarity doesn't fall from the sky. It's carved through reflection, through solitude, through brutal honesty. You have to ask, what am I really here for? What am I willing to burn for? What lie about myself have I tolerated for too long? Because until you confront those lies, until you face the parts of you that hide behind pride, or fear or shame, you'll keep reliving the same year, again and again, calling it a life. But you're not here to repeat. You're here to rebuild, to tear down what was built on survival, and construct something forged in vision, alignment and fire. And you do that one brick at a time, not someday, today. You pick up the weight. You do the work, you take the risk, you finish the task, you speak the truth, you stretch beyond comfort, and you do it again tomorrow. That's how greatness is built, not in massive leaps, but in undeniable patterns. You want a different life, build different patterns, because your life is not shaped by what you occasionally do. It's shaped by what you repeatedly tolerate. Raise the bar on how you speak, on how you show up, on what you expect of yourself when no one is watching. That's what separates the uncommon from the forgettable. It's not hype, it's standards. And your standards must be non-negotiable. Why? Because the world doesn't give you what you want. It gives you what you accept. And every time you tolerate less than your potential, you vote against your own destiny. Every time you hit snooze, every time you postpone your goal, every time you shrink your voice to fit someone else's narrative, you reinforce the belief that your life is not yours, but it is. It always has been. And the moment you start, the moment you take back the pen and begin writing your own story again, the whole universe begins to respond. Not instantly, not without resistance, but with echoes of alignment. Opportunities will test you, challenges will train you, setbacks will sculpt you, because the moment you start is the moment you send a signal, I am ready to become, and everything that follows is just life answering that signal, asking how bad do you want it, and your response, not with words, but with work, with consistency, with the relentless discipline to keep building when no one claps, when no one sees, when no one believes, except you, because that belief, that deep, immovable belief, is the foundation of everything you're becoming, and you'll never touch the edge of your potential until you trust it, not once, every day. Every day you show up, every day you lean into the friction, every day you choose growth over comfort, you rewrite your future, not just with grand declarations, but with 1,000 invisible acts of courage, choosing discipline when distraction calls, choosing progress when pleasure tempts, choosing silence when the world demands noise. You are no longer the person who waits for life to hand you permission. You are the one who writes the permission slip yourself. You have started, and that alone separates you from 99% of people still stuck in thought. Because thought alone changes nothing. The graveyards are full of brilliant thinkers who never acted. The world is filled with silent geniuses who never moved. But action, relentless, aligned action, that is the sword that cuts through fear. That is the path that awakens power. And in the beginning, yes, it's lonely. No applause, no crowd. Just the echo of your footsteps in the hallway of the unknown. But keep walking, because eventually those footsteps become thunder. That thunder becomes rhythm, and that rhythm becomes a roar the world can't ignore. You think people don't notice? They will. They'll notice when your name carries weight without needing to shout. They'll notice when your energy speaks before you do. They'll notice when you've become the person they always claimed was lucky. But luck has nothing to do with it. It was you. It was the late nights no one saw, the early mornings no one joined, the fears you faced without flinching, the standards you raised without needing validation. That's what most people never understand. They think greatness is a moment, but it's not. It's a lifestyle, a system of daily decisions stacked with such precision, such intensity, that success becomes your side effect. You don't chase it. You attract it. You embody it. And when you do, when you rise above mediocrity, above hesitation, above fear, you don't just change your life, you change your legacy. Because make no mistake, someone is watching you. Maybe your child, maybe a friend, maybe a stranger who needs your example like they need air. They don't need your perfection. They need your authentic pursuit. They need to see that starting matters, that imperfect action is more powerful than perfect procrastination, that the way out isn't waiting, it's working. So let them see you work. Let them see you try. Let them see you fail forward and keep showing up anyway. Let them see what it looks like when someone decides their dream is worth everything. Let them see what it looks like to start and never stop. Because when you do that, when you take full ownership of your breath, your body, your belief, you become unstoppable, not invincible, but undeniable. You may fall, but you won't fold. You may bleed, but you won't break, because you've already made the most powerful decision any human can make, to begin. And when you do that, when you truly begin, not halfway, not casually, but with every ounce of who you are, you no longer need permission to win. You create the conditions. You move the pieces. You build the bridge. You become the storm. And in doing so, you give every soul watching you a sacred reminder that greatness is not reserved. It is not inherited. It is not found. It is forged by those willing to start, to risk, to commit, to burn, to rise. So if there's one truth left echoing in your bones when this voice fades, let it be this: most people never win because they never start. But you just did. And now the world will never be the same, not because it changed, but because you did, and you started.